How are you doing, man? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. How are things in
It's
LA?
I can't complain. It's hot, it's beautiful, it's not as hot as Europe, but how are things in Chicago? That's when we last met, right? Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, things in Chicago are going well. We've had a little bit of a weird summer with the smoke from the fires and the weather, but yeah, we're doing well over here.
Are we still talking about the Canadian fires or different fires?
Yeah, Canadian fires are still being impacted with the smoke. So yeah, there's been some air pollution issues, but
More
well, I
than the
mean, yeah,
average.
yeah. So let's just say this though. I think it's okay. We're lucky. We're lucky to only be complaining about some smoke coming in. We're not having to deal with it firsthand. So yeah.
Well, here in California, well, specifically here in LA, we call it, it's a Monday. Soon enough, we're going to have our own wildfires, and that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Um, yes, but um, let's jump over the chit chat. I know that you, well, not complaining, but commenting on the fact that you don't have time to play golf now. Your congratulations on being a father, and maybe plus two soon, or still plus one.
Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. So I've got one boy right now who's 10 months old, and then my wife and I are actually expecting another one in early December. So it's exciting. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
congratulations,
But
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it does mean that the golf, which I used to enjoy playing a lot, it's not gone forever. It's just taking a little seat on the bench for now while I get all this stuff sorted.
Now, you didn't play professional, but used to play something that, yeah, you know how to play, right?
Yeah. I played college golf,
Okay.
so that's actually I started. I was born and raised in London, England, and then I moved over to the US for college. I played collegiate golf and then kicked off my insurance career right after college. So
It sounds like the perfect segue, right? It's like, yeah, I play
exactly.
golf and yeah, I should go to
Yeah.
insurance. Actually, I would say more in a free insurance because I see more and more folks from the reinsurer who are playing golf. But having said that, you're actually, well, you started in Hiscox and then you moved to Appalachian Underwriting. So, let's talk more about that. And if you don't mind, tell the audience a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really starts right after university. So I worked for Hiscox. They gave me my start in insurance, which I'll forever be grateful for them on that. I started out in San Francisco. So I was a professional liability underwriter for Hiscox, working with local wholesalers in the Bay Area. And then after a couple of years doing that, I actually transitioned internally to handle some of our national accounts on our digital programs book. So for those who don't know, Hiscox is a small business insurer in the US and has a heavy digital presence in how they distribute. And so I managed a few of the larger accounts where we digitally distributed professional liability, general liability, and business owners policies to our wholesale clients, and then they distributed that down to their retail agents and the end insured. So I spent about 5 years in Hiscox. I moved for personal reasons to Chicago. My wife's family are from Cleveland, so we wanted to move to the Midwest. It's a great move, and I stayed at Hiscox from 2015 through to the end of 2020, and then I had the great opportunity to work for Appalachian Underwriters, based out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is in eastern Tennessee.
Mhm.
And I was brought on to head up digital partnerships for Appalachian.
So, shout out to Bob.
So Absolutely, yeah. Bob Arrowwood, who was the prior president of Appalachian Underwriters. I can talk a little bit more about Appalachian's story and where we are now. And Bob has moved on to even bigger and better things than Appalachian. I can talk a little bit more about that. But he gave me my chance in 2020 with Appalachian, and yeah, it's been a great almost 3 years. It's been fantastic. So
So that with Appalachian, and recently they were acquired by Acrisure. So what
yeah,
is your role today?
yeah, yeah. So we were acquired by Acrisure back in late December of 2021. So it's been just over a year and a half that we've been acquired, and really that's starting to take a lot more material shape now. For those who haven't heard of Acrisure, massive insurance agency worldwide. A lot of that's been built via acquisition. So I think over 600 retail agencies. Acrisure have also bought up multiple wholesale brokerages as well, of which Appalachian is one. And now there's a real push by Acrisure to bring everybody under one roof. You know, there were hundreds of different brands, hundreds of different business operations going on, and the focus now is to try and centralize and bring everything closer together for the benefit of our customers and trading partners. So my role is still very much Director of Digital Partnerships at Appalachian. I also head up marketing and agency operations for Appalachian. And then on the Acrisure wholesale side, so the larger lens,
Mhm.
I'm heading up the digital efforts with regards to that consolidated group. So the plan is to have all of our individual wholesalers that Acrisure have acquired over the years come together in one consolidated brand and group. And so we're starting to put the framework together for that. So you've got the future opportunity as a group where I'm going to be doing some of the digital work there. And then the present is really focusing on Appalachian Underwriters from a digital partnerships, marketing, and agency operations lens.
Well, I think that the more important part, and that's why we've been trying to schedule this episode for a while now. It's the challenges and opportunities that the wholesaler brings into the space, right? So let's start with the basics, right? What is a wholesaler and why we need them?
Yeah. So a wholesale broker usually works. There's a couple of different value propositions for a wholesale broker, and so a wholesale broker works with independent insurance agents. So we call retail agents. Okay, so a wholesale broker doesn't work directly with the end insured. That's what the retailers do. But the value propositions of a wholesaler for a retail agent is that a lot of times these retail agents they'll be receiving all types of requests for insurance in their local area. Some of them might be very standard requests, but some of them might be for insurance lines that they have either no expertise in, and candidly, sometimes they've maybe even never heard of. You've got things like directors and officers insurance, professional liability, might be some inland marine, things that maybe aren't on something that they come across every day. And so a wholesale broker can help these retail agents by being the specialist for those lines. So usually a wholesale broker will have an expert in a given line of business to be able to guide the retail agent and their customer there. But also the wholesale broker will have access to carriers and products that the retail agent can't get directly. So it's a mix of market availability, so actually being able to have the relationships with the carriers and get the products, as well as expertise, which is what the wholesaler brings to the retail agent. And then what the wholesale broker brings as a value to the carrier, who is going to be our trading partner. We help to distribute the carrier's product down to retail agents, is that we give them a point of aggregation. So we allow them to work with Appalachian Underwriters or Acrisure Wholesale to then allow them to get to potentially thousands, if not tens of thousands of retail agents versus the carrier having to go and actually knock on the doors of all of these agents themselves, which is a massive commitment from a marketing perspective, and from an expense perspective, as well as a continued servicing perspective. So that talks a little bit to the value proposition of a wholesale broker as it pertains to a retail agent, as well as to a carrier. Just really quickly on the specialty piece,
Yeah.
and it speaks to the market kind of relationships and availability as well. A lot of times you'll think of a wholesale broker in the E and S space, so excess and surplus line space. And really, you've got two different types of business. You've got admitted, where the product is actually filed, the forms and the rates are filed with the state, and then you've got surplus, non-admitted, which is usually a lot more flexible. I mean, it's not filed with the state. It's usually those types of insurance products and policies that aren't standard, that these retail agents aren't seeing on a day-to-day basis. So admitted, usually something like personal auto, homeowners for the most of the country, workers' compensation, and then some of the more non-admitted lines or surplus lines could be things like general liability or professional liability, a lot of the liability lines. So wholesale brokers will also handle the majority of the surplus lines or specialty lines of business.
Okay, we need to put a pin in that and go back to that, because it's very interesting, and then it will be more interesting to understand the different InsurTechs that contribute new specialty products and new coverages and how the MGAs play in this role. So before we jump into that, let's continue talking about the wholesalers and the solution that they provide. Because when I think about it from a techie standpoint, basically the wholesaler are solving the long tail-ish problem of the insurance industry in terms of distribution, right? If I'm a carrier, it means that I'm going to a wholesaler, they provide me a distribution channel, I'm paying them, right? So there will be a split of a premium, so I'm going to pay more, let's say 20%, that they later on will split 10%, 10%, or up to 15.5, really depends on the product and the different agreements. And they are actually solving me two issues. One, they're providing me aggregation of all those indie agents that now I don't need to deal with. They have the relationship with them. They are going to manage them. So I'm the carrier, don't need to spend money and a head count in order to support that mechanism and organization of managing like we have in captives and etc. And then the more important part, educate them on how to sell those products. Right? Is
Yeah.
that right direction?
Yeah. And I think it's important, Gilad, that you mentioned education as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that really is a value proposition to both the retail agent and to the carrier. So the wholesale broker can educate and understand the carrier's product.
Yep.
So that's useful to the carrier. They don't have to go through and do this massive training spree or reaching out to all these retail agents directly to train and educate. But also, that is really a big value proposition to these retail agents, because they don't have the time to be going out and reading through what's the latest, hottest market, or what's a product that I should be selling to my customer. They're busy serving their clients, and really being one of the major backbones to the US economy. Being able to make sure that we've got the right amount of insurance in the marketplace. So I think that it's a really valuable piece that a wholesaler brings. I'm glad you brought it up, because we kind of work for the carrier in that respect, where we educate the retail agents, but also we're giving it in a bite-sized way to these retail agents where they just need to drop in for a short amount of time. They just need to listen to us, and we can give them some education on what's going on in the marketplace, while they spend the majority of their time servicing servicing their customers.
Now, the same on the other side, right? You have the independent agent broker, and they cannot get appointments. So you're actually providing them with products and sort of a buffer to get appointments so they can actually sell if it's admitted or not admitted product. Because let's assume Hiscox, which doesn't, they work, if I remember correctly, they work only with wholesalers, and maybe I'm completely wrong. If you want to become an agent, let's take a Acme Insurance. I hope that there isn't really a company like that. So Acme Insurance, you want to be an agent, you need to show that you can manage or create a book of 10,000 or something simple like that. I don't know. How do you get it if you just started? Or if you weren't a producer in a different agency and 5 years in the business? And that's one of the solutions that wholesalers all can provide. Now, with that in mind and that kind of a value proposition, how do you digitalize it? What's the modern or the future wholesaler compared to how things been working so far?
Yeah, yeah, it's not just a really good question; it's the question that I ask myself and I am asked frequently. And so
Hey,
I
that's your
think,
title, no?
yeah, yeah, exactly. I should be ready for this question. So I think it really depends on what you're looking to be as a wholesale broker. So what is your value proposition to your customers? Because not all wholesale brokers, like in any other type of operation, we're not all the same. We all have a unique value
Mm-hmm.
proposition. And so one thing that Appalachian has really focused on and cut our teeth on is working with smaller agencies, and usually on those micro business accounts or on those low value personal lines accounts. So I think our view is that, one, we're really seen as that one-stop shop for our retail agents with regards to that sort of business. A lot of them, to your point about appointments, a lot of them can't get their own appointments. They might be just starting out. They might have a small book. And so we need to be that yes for them with
Mm-hmm.
regards to their insurance. So one-stop shop, is kind of a really important piece of the value that we provide. And so that's something that we continue to work on. And so when you
Mm-hmm.
talk about digitizing, we need to make sure that we have all of those offerings for them so that it's going to be a yes from Appalachian. Now,
Gotcha.
that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a yes with our own programs, because Appalachian isn't just a wholesale broker. We also operate as an MGA and have some of our own, um, you know, binding authority, delegated authority programs. Um, but it means that we need to be saying yes, whether it's our own product or we broker it out. And then the other piece, so I mentioned that we're really in that small space. We're focused on that high frequency business. And
Okay.
so,
Interesting.
yeah, so we're just trying to focus on that. And that's why digitization is so important, because a lot of times the retail agents might not be making that much money on
Mm-hmm.
the account. So we need to make it as seamless and smooth for them as possible. So always saying yes, or almost always saying yes, and making it a really seamless process. So I wanted to preface with that because there are loads of other wholesalers out there that offer very different services. They might handle larger accounts. They might be working just with really large retail agencies and offering something to them. So we're more for the masses. And so I think that the digitization that we're going through and for the benefit of our customers is a little bit different. And I can go into that. I can go into that a little bit more, unless you have other questions.
No, of course. Listen, it's a conversation. Ask me a question, I'll ask you a question. It's very interesting because when I think about digitalization, automation, basically using a technology, it's more about how can we apply something that will reduce our profit margin. If we need to add, how can we operate at scale and reduce the cost, right? Economy of scale. So I'm adding another retailer based on the business that we do. What does it mean that we can add them faster, cheaper, provide them value that they can be more productive at almost zero cost, right?
Yeah.
From, as you mentioned, you want to do everything that is, well, provide them, disseminate information, products, and provide them with the education. We can from here soon enough, and you already touched two elements, which one of them is the MGA, right? So you're also doing underwriting MGA, and you have your own programs as an MGA. Then it's a question of like, okay, where is the role of the all the cool kids of the MGAs, the InsurTech MGAs that we've seen popping up, and how are they working with you, or how they can work with you? But before we ask that specific question, what are the technology that you are providing your retailers, retail agents, or your carriers, so your cost of operation is more efficient or cheaper,
Yeah.
or and
Yeah. Yeah. So really, we're taking a bit of a different approach. So we're not building out API integrations directly into our platform today. We're not building out too many comparative rating solutions. What we're trying to do is we're trying to be that trusted advisor while offering all of these solutions and being that one-stop shop. So what I mean by that is, if we used the example of Hiscox earlier, if Hiscox is the best solution for a carpenter in Georgia who has maybe a small crew and has $150,000 in payroll, how do we get the retail agent to Hiscox's product as quickly as possible? And so that's where I think that we take a little bit of a different approach. I think there's a time and a place for comparative rating,
Mhm.
but how do we become that advisor and we say, you don't need to go through a comparative, this is the best solution for you, and drive them there? So what we're doing from a technology perspective is we're really starting to invest top of funnel. What I mean by that is we're trying to help triage the retail agent and the account on their desk into the right place and where they need to go. And then we're not focusing that much on quote, bind, pay APIs, because that might be something that we can get to, once we have the tech team and we build this out. But really, the carriers have spent millions, and the InsurTechs, the InsurTech MGAs have spent a considerable amount of time building out their own platforms that have been built to really make a very smooth and seamless customer experience and journey. So what we like to do is we like to provide the agent with the education on where they should go. That's based on our data and experience. And then what we'll do is we'll actually bridge the retail agent over into Hiscox's or whatever the InsurTech or carrier name is. We'll bridge them into that system, making sure that we then provide the fastest experience and best experience for that retail agent, while also capturing the data on the back end so that we can continue to improve on our understanding of who is the best or what is the best market for the risk on this retail agent's, on our customer's desk.
So I think I'm going to title this episode as Time is Money, the story of a digital
Yeah.
wholesaler. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, what you're providing is, here's an education so you can sell products, insurance policies, coverage, the fastest possible, and with the right advice and all the things that go with that, right? With
Yeah.
consideration about the needs of the policyholder. Yeah, okay. And then now we can actually segue to the previous question about, okay, we are 6-7 years into the InsurTech industry, or this movement. We have seen different MGAs. Now we see more and more niche and specialty products. How should they work with you? Is there a difference between working with a young MGA versus a more mature carrier?
It's a good question. So I don't. Our door is always open to having a conversation with MGAs, young or old. I think that the biggest thing that we're trying to do, Gilad, is we're trying to solve for a problem or a gap for our customers. So what we do within the digital department is that we lean heavily on our department heads for each of the product lines. So
Mm-hmm.
if we have an MGA who comes in who's doing workers' compensation, then we're going to say to our workers' compensation team, here's the appetite, here's what they offer. Is this something that's going to provide value and it's going to help us as a trusted advisor and a one-stop shop to our retail agents? So I think that they can contact and work with us, or at least go through the discovery exercise of whether we're going to be a good mutual fit. Anybody can do that. And we are open for business. How about that? I think that the big piece is just making sure that it's going to be of value to our retail agents and their customers. So is it going to solve for let's say it's commercial lines, is it going to solve for classes of business that we can't place today with our current markets? Is it going to solve for a geography that we don't have appetite in? Is it going to solve for a line of business that we don't have a strong carrier panel and bench depth with? So as long as it's fitting one of those criteria, and the operational piece works and it makes sense, then we're very interested in partnering.
Usually, I use the metaphor to explain the wholesaler as the truck driver, or the truck who brings the supply, and telling in this case it's a mom and pop grocery, and telling them, oh, the keg you need to put there, the six packs you need to put over there, the cans, place them in the fridge next to the cashier, and basically providing them with the different products, different coverages, size of the bottle, right? And the location, so it will feed their policy holders who go through the shop, and pointing out, and you can have Pepsi, Cola, I don't know, RC or Inca, whatever is your favorite brand, and they can know and point into that, and also train them about where to place it. And is it is it a is it a good metaphor? Or is it a little bit outside? And then there is, of course, the question: how do they share? How do they share the profits? And if you are reducing yours by introducing technological tools and cutting your own cost and becoming more efficient, does it make sense to incentivize the retailer with more percentage out of that arrangement?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So first things first, I think the metaphor, it can absolutely work. So again, thinking of it from more of a true retail perspective, like that grocery store, and that truck coming to provide goods to stock that grocery store. So yeah, what I would say though, right now, Gilad, what we have is the grocery store owner is being asked to go to the truck and basically pick out what they think they need.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to bring the goods and the products to the grocery store owner, take it off the truck for them and go, actually, this is the one that we recommend you use because it's resonating really well with the other grocery stores in this area. It's flying off the shelves. It's obviously a big value to the end customer. So right now it's a little bit of a free for all. and we're asking we're asking the retail agent or the grocery store um, in this kind of analogy, we're asking them to come all the way to us. And so what we're trying to achieve with digitization is how do we bring the products to them? And we say, no, you don't need to buy that brand of chip. That's not going to do it. You need this one. So don't waste your money, don't waste your time, don't waste your customers' time with this one. Use something else. And so I'll be very candid. I think that once we can offer that true value, and we're on the journey there. We're working on that. We're not by any means a finished article, but as we get better and better at that, the chip manufacturer or the carrier, the insurance carrier, I'm talking about insurance again, they're going to be very interested in being able to work more closely with us if we can say, look, we will be bringing your product to the retail agent and almost provide exclusivity because thank you very much, congratulations, your product is really good in this area and this line of business. But also we want to be driving just your product and advising that the retail agent just purchase your product in this specific area. And really, if we're going to be doing that, carrier, we would like to think that adds value. You're not just being seen across a panel, you're being given that exclusive view. And so is that something where we can get more from them, more commission from them, because we're offering more value? And then in return, how do we then seed that commission and that profit down to our retail agent customers? So I think that's how we look at it. We go, if we're providing more value to our retail agents and we're providing more value to the carrier, there's going to be more of the dollar that can go around to both us and our customers.
Because you can help increase the volume, and there is the margin there, and there is, well, it's a win-win-win situation. So
absolutely, yeah.
So given that we are reaching the end of the episode, I have two more questions for you. One is on the natural growth of insurance companies or anything in the insurance industry, which is mergers and acquisitions, and that's something that you just experienced recently. What are the trends that you see in terms of growth, right? So most of the insurance industry grow by acquiring other book of business. It's very, very hard to build your own book of business. We've seen that a lot of companies are struggling, and the cost of the marketing of acquiring a customer is way more expensive than retaining a customer. So that gap, that financial gap, that's one of the incentives. So what are the trends that you see, especially as a wholesaler, when it's about selling and the different growth? Because we see more and more agency clusters, let's call them also gorilla agency or gorilla size agencies. What do you see, and how do you work or partner, if you partner with them?
Yeah. So I think not to kind of be very diplomatic on it, but there are pros and cons to this kind of Russian nesting doll approach, where it just the acquisitions continue to happen. I think for us it's a real opportunity to have a point of aggregation from a customer base. So if multiple of our retail agency customers are all acquired by one place, it allows us to get a clear message out to that specific partner. And we're excited about it with regards to us, meaning Acrisure wholesalers consolidating, because we feel like we can bring our market, our product, our expertise all into one centralized area, which makes it a lot easier. We talk about education, we've talked about that quite a lot through this podcast.
Yep.
It's a lot easier for us to educate on one brand or one company that is Acrisure Wholesale than try and educate someone on seven. So I think that's going to be really important, and that's something that Acrisure has publicly announced that it's doing. So I mentioned that we've done over 600 acquisitions, and that number I might even be lowballing that a little bit. But what Acrisure is doing from a retail side is they're building out platforms that the retail agencies will fall into based on geography. So example would be the Acrisure New Jersey platform, which is a way for all of the New Jersey Acrisure owned agencies will fall in under that platform. And it allows for when you're working with carriers or working with MGAs, again, that's a retail agency platform, wholesalers, and all the end insured, it provides a clearer, more distinct message. So I think that's kind of the pro there. I think that in terms of the market trends and some of the macro trends, I don't think that acquisitions are going away. I mean, you've seen a lot of these companies, Brown and Brown, Acrisure, Assured Partners. There are a lot of companies out there that have been making strategic acquisitions to grow the book inorganically for a long time. But I can only speak for Acrisure in that inorganic growth has been massive and it's been really successful. Acquisition has been really successful for Acrisure. There's a
Fantastic.
real excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's a real excitement around the organic growth that can be brought as well by centralizing and now starting to bring from an operational, but also from a production standpoint, being able to bring all of these companies under one brand and and one force. So we're excited about that across Acrisure globally, but also closer to home with the wholesale group that we're building out.
Fantastic. Okay, so let me ask you the last question that I'm asking everyone. Can you give what would be an advice that you'll give the younger you or someone who is looking to enter the insurtech and insurance industry besides playing golf?
Yeah, besides playing golf. Um, that's a really good question. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is to actively a couple of pieces. Sorry, I know that's being naughty. I'm kind of taking a liberty and getting an extra thing. So one is active listening. Okay, there's a reason why things are done the way they are today. That doesn't mean that we should accept them point blank and not try and change them, but really understanding that insurance is part of a financial services industry and it's heavily regulated. So I think really listening, truly listening without thinking that you have the best ideas, that's an advice that I would give to my younger self because there's a lot of reasons why business is being done the way it is in insurance. Doesn't mean there isn't a better way. It just means that you need to understand why it's done the way it is today to learn um, the better way. So I think that active listening is probably the biggest thing that I would say. But then also just being, I'd say the other piece of advice is be uh, really kind of convinced and show a lot of conviction in your ideas because in the same way that you should be actively listening and learning, you need to also be pushing as hard as you can to improve this industry because I absolutely love insurance. I think it's been the best thing that's happened to me from a professional perspective. I love being in the insurance industry. It's such a fantastic industry, and we need more people to join the industry, understand the ins and outs, and then really be convinced and show conviction in the way that we go about improving it and bettering it and enabling the industry, which we always need.
Cool. Wonderful. Will, thank you very, very much for joining me today. It was a pleasure, picking your brain about the wholesaler, and well, now the new title is Time is Money.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Gilad, and looking forward to chatting soon.
Well, I hope to see you again in Chicago or London or New York or wherever we meet again. Cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers.